started with the labor movement. You know, and then the second story is, what does the union mean to you? How would you describe it to those who don't have a union? Why should anyone be a part of a union? And what would you say to your coworkers or workers in general? And what do you see as a major difference in what you have in your work site and what workers in a state like Idaho or other states, what do you see as the major difference?
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So those are pretty much the questions there. And
my hands are all sweaty.
Exactly. No, don't worry about it. Yeah.
Basically, you two are just having a conversation. And so it's not going to be one of those situations where we're going to stop and start and this take and that take.
Exactly.
It's just you're having a conversation like you would anywhere else.
Okay.
And I'm just recording it.
Yeah, precisely. Yep. Then the last.
Is this for me?
Oh
That's
yeah,
yours,
absolutely.
yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you.
And the last thing is just what would you want the next generation to have? You know, I mean, you were one of the first people that kind of activated me as a union member.
Whoop, whoop.
I just want to appreciate you on that. And
I will definitely take that as a compliment.
Thank you.
Because you rock.
Oh, I appreciate that. But I guess, like, what would you want for your daughter? What would you want for, the next
For my
generation?
sons, yeah.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
In fact, my son. Well, I can tell you the story when we get there.
Mm-hmm.
He's flagging right now, and he was telling me that the difference between a non-union flagger and a union flagger is about minimum wage or $20 an hour.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And he sees it. He's like, okay, Mom, that makes sense, all that stuff you do.
If I can get that on tape. I'm just kidding.
Right.
I'm just kidding. No. But yeah, that's pretty much what we're about here.
Okay.
It's just a conversation. Just like if we were, hanging out. So, yeah. So
Where's the beer?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was wondering. Where's the beer and where's Mike? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no juice for booze, man.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So, I guess just to get started here. So altogether, we all have a story here. I mean, there's a reason why we're here on a Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
What is your story? How did you get started in the labor movement?
The short answer is somebody asked me.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that's the very short answer. When I walked into a DHS office and I started volunteering, there was a big sign on the wall that looked real similar to that, but it had tennis shoes hanging from it, and it said, "We'll walk for healthcare." And I was like, "So is that like a walkathon? I mean, what are you guys doing?" No, that's the union, and they're protecting our healthcare. So they watched our back, we got theirs, and it sounded like it was two different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then I got hired, and Yvonne Howard is, it's all her fault that I got involved because she asked me to show up on a bus and attend a march, and I did, and I took my son with me, and then years later every year he's like, "Mom, is it time to go march on Salem again?" I thought that was pretty cool.
Awesome.
But then there was decisions that were being made by my union that I didn't understand, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense to me. Who's making these calls?
Mm-hmm.
So I started showing up at meetings, and I was on Cape, as an alternate, but nobody else showed up. So I ended up being chair of my region.
Oh, nice.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the more I got involved, the more I wanted to be involved because there is an energy. There is it's powerful to see what's possible when people stand together. I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
excellent.
why.
And what does the union mean to you? And how would you describe it to? I mean, that was a great description right there. What does it mean? Would you describe it to someone who is not part of a union?
Describing it to someone who's not part of a union is almost the same as describing it to members who have never worked anything but union, right? Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of the folks that I work with, they've always had a union job. Mm-hmm. So they don't understand that having retirement, having days off, having, sick leave, all of these things were fought for. Mm-hmm. And they've always just had it, so they don't recognize the value of it. Mm-hmm. And so it's challenging there. My son, I was just telling you, is flagging right now, and he was telling me the difference between a union and a non-union job is quite a lot. Mm-hmm. Minimum wage versus about $20 an hour.
Gotcha. So, someone who's flagging, working in these outside
playing
conditions.
Frogger, right?
Exactly. Yeah. is making not a minimum wage essentially compared to a union person who's making a somewhat living wage.
Yeah, and having benefits and being able to support their family and pay their car insurance and have safety standards at work.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing.
Well, you know, things like that, I mean, it makes me think, well, why wouldn't someone be a part of a union? What would you say to coworkers and workers in general? I mean, obviously that difference to me, there's a significant difference. What would you say to individuals that are not part of a union, and why? What would be some of the barriers for them to want to be part of a union? How to overcome those barriers?
You know, I was thinking about that. We were talking downstairs at the board meeting and about the concerted campaign against unionism in our country over the past few decades. I think that the opposition has hijacked that whole American individuality thing, right? Why should I be part of a collective? I'm an individual. That's my right as an American to do what I want, stand on my own, you know, that kind of thing. I think that kind of messaging goes against unionism. I think that those who are against unionizing a work site, for example, will say the union can't promise you anything. And that's true, right? Yeah. We can't promise higher wages, we can't promise benefits, but we can promise that we will stand with you. So when you show up and your boss decides, hey, I don't like that shirt, you're fired, he can't do that, right? And he can't do that because we as a collective are all standing with you. Yeah.
So is that what you're kind of seeing as a difference between states like Oregon and Idaho? Is that an employer can terminate someone for whatever reason. Would you say that is the main difference, or is it more the union component behind all that as well?
I think the difference, I mean, in two words, the difference between union and non-union is just cause, right? If you're union, they have to have just cause to get rid of you. If you're non-union, it's just because they want to.
Gotcha.
I mean, that's it.
Yeah, excellent. So what's something that you would like for the next generation of workers to have? Obviously, we get all this this information of, you know, being an individual, and you kind of the message that you were talking about, this kind of anti-collectivism, and you know, that the labor movement is bad, the union is just, you know, no different than the corporations essentially. You know, this is the kind of message that our generation has been getting. What would you want the next generation to have from this labor movement? What do you want that labor movement to be for your son, for the next generation, for your daughter?
Yeah. I think that we in the labor movement now, I mean, we stand on the shoulders of giants, right? Amazing work has been done by those who came before us, and they faced a lot of the same things that we do. Fortunately, we're not facing baseball bats and that kind of thing anymore, right? But the attacks are no less violent, but they're violent on a much more spiritual level, if you will, right? We're taught as workers that we don't have value because we are just part of the production, right? And I think that the labor movement that I would like to see for my kids is for them to realize that they do have value, and that as part of this organization, they are stronger, right? Because it's more than the sum of its parts, right? And I think that it's a way to push back against all of that negativity that's out there for them.
Excellent. Rhonda Morgan, our next DHS president and board member for SEIU 503. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Austin.
All right.
Isn't she to the camera?
Isn't she like pro?
Yeah, someone's being nervous though.
Oh my god! I'm literally shaking.
Oh my goodness!
Will you just look at the camera and state your name and spell it for me, please?
Rhonda Morgan, Morgan, like the captain.
And spell your first name?
RHONDA.
I hate to assume. And so this video is now property of Service Employees International Union to use however we see fit. Do you agree with that?
Sure.
Okay, we have your permission to use this video.
As long as you make me look good, sure.
Okay, that's not hard. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Here you go.
Let me get you to scoot up a little bit more.
Oh, yeah.
I'm having sympathy for you right now. I find myself clearing my throat.
Yeah, exactly.
On your behalf, I am doing this for you. Just so
yeah, thank you. Yeah. All right. So, yeah, thank you so much for coming over here to do this. So altogether, I wanted to hear what your story is. How did you get started with the labor movement, and what keeps you here? Obviously, we're here on a Saturday. You know, something's driving us to be here on a Saturday.
Yeah, I would say that my beginnings with the labor movement started at a very early age.
Mm-hmm.
My mother was part of the teachers union for her entire, I guess, 45-year career working in education and public school systems.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely owe a great deal of who I am to how my mother approached things, and in particular highlighting the importance of civic engagement with the issues that are impacting workers within the community.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, gosh, I think I was maybe 11 years old when I went on my first canvass in phone banking.
Mm-hmm.
And it was when there was a significant ballot measure being voted on in the state of Oregon. It was ballot measure 5.
Mm-hmm.
I've lived in this state my entire, I guess, 36 years, and for, I guess, people like me or people that have come to the state and focus on progressive issues, they know full well the implications that ballot measure had across across essentially every facet of daily life. It just crippled revenues. The state has never recovered since.
Mm-hmm.
I firmly understand that Oregon has the second lowest corporate tax rates in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Only lower to the state of Delaware, which all the credit card companies are located in Delaware. And I don't see how we can continue down this path as a state and have that be the case. It seems like if I'm a corporate entity, I need to have some accountability to the health of the community, the health of the schools, of people being able to access affordable housing, people being able to access affordable health care. And I would say that that's probably the primary reason, too, that I like to be very much involved with the activities of my union, SEIU 503. I don't view, I guess, our movement as one that is focused solely on one singular issue. I think that could be a little bit narrow-sighted. I do like the energy, I guess, that's created when we have contract negotiations, collective bargaining, and I see members completely mobilized and engaged in that fight. For me, it's not only that fight, but it's the larger macro level things that are happening in our society, things that are driving inequities, things that are driving systems of oppression, and I firmly appreciate having the support of 503 in engaging in those macro level things, knowing that we're going to inevitably have more success at the bargaining table if we have success with addressing these other.
So what I'm kind of getting from you as far as what does the union mean to you is that we fight for these bigger issues that help all Oregonians and people from all walks of life. And that helps us in the contract negotiations and continue to fight for strong social justice. And it sounds like the initial thing that got you involved was you saw this social injustice of corporations not being taxed this equally to everybody else. So what else does the union mean to you in reference to fighting for those social? What was an activity that, for instance, that best describes how we fight for social justice?
Oh my goodness, yeah, I guess if I were to list off all the issues and the organizations and all the social justice work that we support in the community, I mean, the list is astronomically long, which is really rewarding for me to see that our leadership within our union not only focuses on just 503 membership, but sees the importance of identifying key allies that are doing incredible social justice work out in the community, and making sure that we show up, that we have a presence to support that work. I guess over the past couple of years, I've attended a number of rallies, I've done a number of public speaking events, and personally, I like that, I guess, when I wear my purple and yellow, to some degree, I recognize that I have 55,000 plus individuals across the state that are there with me. Maybe they're not there with me physically. Oftentimes they are, because I see a lot of purple and yellow at, say, like the May Day march through downtown Portland. But even for the ones that are not there, I think, you know, to some degree, I'm representing fighting for them too, and it's very gratifying to know that our union's leadership is fully supportive of individuals such as myself, admirable leaders across all sectors of 503, when it comes to engaging in those fights, whether it's the fight for income, I like to call it income equity, because I think as human beings, I guess within a society, we need to make an investment in people, and that, I guess, pulls in the notion of equity. Equality, I think, sells it a little bit too short.
Gotcha.
If we truly want to live in a thriving community, we need to increase our investment in people.
Yeah. So what would you say is a part of why should someone be in a union? What would you tell your coworkers or workers just in general? Why should they be a part of a union?
Yeah, there's so many different reasons why being unionized is of the utmost importance in terms of protecting workers with worksite issues that may arise. I guess I would use the example of, say, like working for a supervisor, and that supervisor has significant areas of opportunity when it comes to treating staff that are working under them, treating them equally. The notion of bully boss can be very unfortunately pronounced whenever somebody enters into, I guess, a position of power. And some approach, I guess, working as a supervisor, and definitely understand that it empowers the staff, it empowers the work that needs to be done to treat workers equitably. But other supervisors, I would say, definitely are lacking in that department. When those issues come up in the work site, I think that is like the prime example as to why a worker really deeply appreciates having a union there for the added support for dealing with that situation. And essentially resolving the situation so the work that is necessary in the community can actually happen. Because if there is bullying going on in the workplace or unequal treatment, inevitably it's going to lead to demotivation of the entire staff. And if a staff is not empowered to go out there and perform the work, then we're essentially jeopardizing, I guess, our collective society. From a larger, I guess, macro level standpoint, I mean, certainly I think looking at the situation in the country since, gosh, a trend that has been happening, I guess, for the past 50 years, if not more, if I looked at a graph of how organized labor and union membership has declined in the country, and I look at the growing horrendous disparity in terms of distribution of wealth within this country, it's almost a complete parallel where the distribution of wealth is consolidating to very, very few hands, everybody else falling off the cliff.
Yeah, then the percentage of people that are in labor or in unions is going down. You then see the upward trend of wealth inequality, the greater gap between wealth inequality.
Yeah.
Wow.
And even if I were, say, an individual living the life of the 1%, I think it would be very short-sighted of me not to see how that also impacts me as a result. If you have more people that are slipping into poverty from the middle class, essentially you cripple the consumer base within a society.
Exactly.
And given the current terms of, I guess, a capitalist structure, the way that I guess it all works is to have consumers that are able to be active participants in the economy. And so inevitably, if everybody is scraping by on nothing or less than nothing, not even having a roof over their heads, that's going to have a trickle-up effect to the 1%, whether they choose to see that today or not.
Yeah, exactly. So would you say that is a part of the major difference between what you would see in states like here in Idaho, is that you see that the gap in between the wealth, and you also see that lower percentage of people that are in unions? Would you say you see that more drastically in those type of states, or what would you see the difference between those two states?
Unfortunately, I guess Idaho is one of the states that is a right to nothing state. I'll avoid using, I guess, the convenient PR pitch of how that right to is phrased, I guess, to achieve certain political means. I do feel fortunate that even though Oregon really needs to do something about equitable revenue, and included in that conversation is doing at least something to have the corporations pitch in even a small amount. Oregon has for a long time been a very strong state in terms of labor unions. Sure, the national fights, the right to nothing, trickles into Oregon. I do have my concerns that, eventually somewhere down the line, Oregon may shift to become a state like Idaho as well. But at least for right now, Oregon maintains both, I guess, with political leadership and with the drive of individuals within communities across the state, the importance of being part of organized labor. I feel like Oregonians definitely understand that organized labor is the best thing that anybody can do to drive forward the progressive causes within a community. And if I'm in Idaho, essentially I have no protections. If I'm working for a bully boss, and that bully boss decides for whatever reason they don't like me, maybe it's because of I'm married to my husband. It could be as simple as that. I show up to work on Monday morning because I was out with my coworkers and my husband on Friday night, and they inform my supervisor, and I show up on Monday, I have a pink slip waiting on my desk. When I'm caught in those instances, I would it would definitely become immediately individually apparent the importance of having union protections like I do here with SEIU in Oregon.
So what would you want the next generation to have? You and I are part of the millennial generation, and we've essentially stood on the shoulders of giants that have come before us. what do we want for the next generation to have from this labor movement?
Yeah, I think it comes back to the investment in people. So many people, I think of investment in terms of a financial standpoint, and I think that is important, of course, to living a fulfilled life. But I think it's far more important to put at the paramount the investment in people. And I consider it, I guess, my civic responsibility to listen to the needs of people within a community, to learn from listening to those individuals, and to do my utmost to take the knowledge that I gain from them and engage in the fights that create the needed change. The fights against workers, unfortunately, I feel we're living in a time where it is so multifaceted. Workers face battles in the courts. Workers face battles in terms of legislators not willing to promote equity within the economy. Workers face battles in terms of egregious trade policies that just drive exploitation of resources and exploitation of people. Yeah, I mean, it's just such a multi-pronged battle that we're living in right now.
Yeah.
And a lot of it has to do with the fact, I think, that the 1%, of course, has huge financial resources. Coming along with those huge financial resources buys oftentimes full-time lobbyists that they can employ to implement that multi-pronged attack. And I wonder, when is it ever enough? If you've made $100 million, what difference is it going to make to you to make another 100 million? Or if you have $1 billion or $40 billion, what difference is it going to make to have a billion more? Or could that $1 billion actually, that extra $1 billion, go back into the community and lift up everybody within society? And what would be the benefit to your individual human experience in seeing that happen?
Investing in people, then.
Investing in people, I think it's incumbent upon all of us to take on that civic responsibility to place people first and foremost, and listen to people, empower others to be involved in this fight for workers, and to go out there and lead by example and create the change. I'm hopeful we'll be able to get there. I'm cautiously pessimistic that the other side is fighting really hard against us, which just drives my motivation to fight even harder.
Excellent. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us, Benjamin.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Benjamin, can I get you to look at the camera and just state your name and spell it for me, please?
Okay. And just say my name, don't say my name is Benjamin Garrett.
No, this is not for use in the video, it's just for release purposes.
Okay. Benjamin Garrett's, BenjaminGerritz.
Okay, and do we have your consent that this video is now the property of Service Employees International Union to use as we see fit?
Absolutely.
Okay,
yes,
thank you.
full on.
Thanks a lot, bro.
Yeah.
Relate to that. People can understand that.
Right.
People can, and it's real to them. So pretty much the main questions we're going to be asking here is, what is your story? How did you get started with the labor movement? Obviously, we're here on a Saturday, our personal time.
Right.
There must be something around that. What does the union mean to you, and how would you describe it to those who don't have a union? And why should anyone be a part of a union altogether? And how would you describe that to coworkers and workers just in general? And then what do you see as a major difference in your work site compared to a state like Idaho or any other state maybe if you have an example of like a family or a friend who's working in conditions that are not like your condition, your work site. And then what do you want the next generation to have? That's kind of like the last question there is, obviously we kind of stand on the shoulder of giants. There's some people that came before us, that have led us to this point. What do we want for the next generation to stand on? That's kind of the message that we're around that question. So anyway, we'll just kind of just get started here. All right, so what is your story? How did you get started in the labor movement? I mean, we're here on a Saturday. Obviously, we got something motivating us.
Well, I think for me, my parents were migrant farm workers. That was kind of my family's move from the state of Texas to Oregon. They migrated up this way to do seasonal work and work and migrate up and do work wherever possible. My parents ended up in Woodburn, the Willamette Valley, and ended up staying there like back in 1962, I believe it was. And so for me, it's always been who I am and where I come from, and where my family was and where they came from. It's definitely not where they ended up, nor where I'm going to end up, and where we want to continue to move forward. But it's that one, for me personally, it's that one piece of my personal history, because of my family was involved, that keeps me motivated to want to give back and make things better for those that are coming behind me that aren't even born within my own family, within my own community, and just in general. Working in the fields with no type of unionization, no type of support. You're relying on working in conditions that by today's standards are just horrific. When water, if there was water, was it clean? Was it sanitary? Were there, sanitation units? There weren't necessarily like there are today, mobile and to be cleaned on a regular basis. And those are still issues as of today. But working in a field and watching crop dusters, fly above you, spraying chemicals that you didn't realize, could affect you or would affect you down the road. Watching, working before school, after school, on weekends, and sometimes not even going to school because you had to work to make money. And seeing the sacrifices that both my parents made growing up in my early years until my father was able to get a decent job working for the city, and still even then seeing the sacrifices, because he had to work 2 jobs, my mother had to work 3 jobs. So regardless of making it, they never made it. And so for me, it's not about kind of where I end up personally, but how far I carry the ball and where I carry it, and hopefully encouraging and motivating others to carry that ball even further.
Yeah. So in reference to what the union means to you, obviously you know what it's like to not have a union. So with that in mind, how would you describe that to those who have never had a union? What is the union difference, I guess?
I think for me, it's, when I speak to folks and they ask me, why should I be a part of the union, and what is it done for what's it going to do for me, or what's it done for you? For me, it's I always call it a safety net. It's that if you ever walked on a high wire or walked on a wall and you've fallen, no one there to catch you, how does that feel? Or knowing that there's nothing there to catch you, nothing there to support you, how does that feel? For me, the union is that safety net. It's that ability to give me confidence to walk that wire and walk that wall and not be afraid of falling, because I know someone or somebody is going to be there to help me to get back up and focus on my move. And so for me, the union is that kind of, it gives me empowerment, encouragement, and motivation to continue moving forward, because without that, I think, I understand and been there. It can maybe deter how you think of life and where you want to go, but definitely with the union, it has encouraged me to continue on my mission for my children, my grandchildren, and others, that aren't born yet. So for me, the union is not just a individual or a group or an entity. It's a collective group and people that have struggled and died and fought for what I have today and for others. And so to not use that or not help move that ball forward, I would be doing an injustice and inservice to those folks that are no longer with us.
Yeah, exactly. And with that, when you've said, why should someone be a part of a union? It's mainly because of obviously we there's some things that we have today that other people have fought for that have brought us to this point. What are the battles that we need to fight that are yet to come, and why should they be a part of that movement?
I think a lot of what our battles are today is people dividing, or groups being divided. Mm-hmm. And for me, when we talk about solidarity, is solidarity my individual group being solid, their individual group being solid, or is it all our groups being solid and as one? For me, I think of, I use a lot of sports analogies. If I want to play multiple sports, can I use the same equipment for all the sports, or do I need different pieces of equipment? Can I use a pair of running shoes to go play basketball, or can I use a pair of basketball shoes to go play football? Mm-hmm. Can I use a bat to play tennis, or can I use a tennis racket to play baseball? If I don't have all this equipment in a sense in my bag or my tool bag, then I'm very ineffective when it comes to different problems and different situations. And so I think a lot of what I think currently is happening is people are being or are less motivated, less encouraged, and feel left out of that loop. And for me, my focus as president of 415 and being a board of directors member for 503 is to get that kind of that coach mentality, get people excited about being a part of the union, get that sense of pride, get that sense of empowerment, and then have them share that with others. Because I think until we are a collective unit, a collective group, we're always going to be silos that are a little loud and a little disruptive to everybody else. But if we were able to collectively be together, and that has to be together, regardless of our views, our thoughts, and our own personal, agendas. Without us all being together, we're not going to be able to move forward, and make these huge accomplishments. It's always going to be little battles.
Yeah, exactly. So, and kind of as a, what do you see as the major difference between states like Idaho and the current work sites that we have? Do you have an example of maybe like a family member in a different state that don't have the same working conditions that you have?
Stop just a second.
Yeah, exactly. Dang it. Yeah, that darn light.
Yeah,
exactly. Yep. There we go.
I thought for a moment, did the building lose power?
Yeah. Exactly, yep.
I'm just long winded. It told me to cut.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No.
All right, we'll just kind of start that question over.
Yes.
All right. So, what do you see as the major difference in your work site compared to workers in maybe like a state like Idaho or any other state?
Well, I have my in-laws live in Utah, and seeing my in-laws retired, but yet still having to work is kind of it kind of gives me fear that when I retire, or people that are in ahead of me retiring, that they still have to work to live and to be able to pay mortgages or be able to buy medication is kind of disheartening and kind of deflating for me, because I think of all of what's happened years before and the people that have struggled to make sure that those things don't happen, but yet they're still happening. And seeing that when you have to get a job in a state that does not have the kind of support that Oregon does with our union, and as a senior, if you have a job in another state and don't have the support, you're pretty much treated like garbage. You're put wherever they basically own you.
Yeah.
And so I think of it as kind of slavery in a sense, where they give you breaks when they want to give you. They assign you shifts whenever they want to assign you and wherever they want to assign you. You could be working, like my father-in-law could work in one town, which is 2 minutes from his home, or an hour away from his home, and he doesn't have that say in what, where, and when, or even how. And so to see them suffer and have to in their later years go through those, and had worked all his years to live in a nice, comfortable economic situation where they don't have to think about, okay, what do we eat tomorrow, or how do I pay my medical, to then be there. I have to think it's very dehumanizing as an individual. Very I don't even know what the words would be, or how I even express it, but to even think that you've committed years and years of your life to a position or a company, and then nothing at the end. And so for me, when I see that, it aggravates me, and it actually just pisses me off. So I say, well, I want to make sure what we have in Oregon, other states need to have the same, and we need to ensure that what's happening in other states does not happen in Oregon. And how do I do that? How do we do that? And that's, again, I think member education, letting folks see what's really happening in other states, not just the stories that you hear or the articles in the news, but actual folks that are living this life and living this, I don't even want to call it life, but living this issues and concerns, that they share those stories, and we really see it. And my hope is to motivate folks, because I'm not the only member in 503 that has families that live in other states and are struggling, or even in the state of Oregon. So for me, I think until you get representation at all levels, our work's not done.
Yeah. So obviously a big part of what motivates you is passing on something on to the next generation. What would you like to see the next generation have?
I think a fair shot at life, being able to have an opportunity to work wherever they want, not have to worry about, when I wake up tomorrow, am I still going to have the same job? Am I going to still have the same shift? Am I going to have the same pay? Am I going to have a job? Is all of a sudden somebody going to come, repossess my home because I wasn't able to make a mortgage payment? For me, I want to be able to leave. I guess for me, it's just a sense of security. I want folks to know that when I'm gone, that they say, he moved the ball 15 yards. He took it down further than others expected, and for that, I'm really willing to move it further because of what he or the union has done. And so, for me, is hope. Leaving some hope behind, so folks can say, okay, the job is not done. We're close, but if I move that ball further, hopefully it'll get done and we'll cross the finish line. So for me, it's just encouraging others, especially young people, people of color, women, everybody, to stand up and fight and say enough's enough.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right.
Real quickly, I just need to get your release for the video here.
Sure.
So just look at the camera, please, and state your name and spell it for me.
Rolando Ramirez, ROLANDO RAMIREZ.
And Rolando, this video is now property of Service Employees International Union for us to utilize however we see fit. Do we have your consent for that?
Yes, you do.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, brother.
All right, brother.
All right. My name's Austin Flonnegy. I'm a member of SEIU 503. The greatest gift that we can give outside of our love is our labor. The labor movement has fought hard for the American dream and for a greater future of the next generation. We oftentimes look for the answer of what that will be, but sometimes when we can't find the answer, we have to be the answer. These members that I've spoke to today have been a part of our fight and to find the answer. I invite you to join us in that fight for a greater future and for greater prosperity of all Oregonians.